Do you know they were supposed to bomb Kyoto in World War II, but there was some like high-ranking general who had their honeymoon there and decided to spare Kyoto.
I thought it was like they had too much cloud cover or something like that.
This is
I think I've heard that.
yeah.
Yeah, like I knew that happened. Like that was when there were that was original target, but like it didn't happen for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just a story that I heard, but yeah. I'd love to go to Japan.
Oh, if you ever do put it, get it on the planner, let me know, and I'll tell you some good places to go visit for shrines and whatnot. Because it is beautiful, and it's a culture shock, but it's a nice culture shock.
Get your international license from AAA. Takes I think 30 days to get. That way, when you get there, you can ride. It's called Mari Kart, and they're little go karts that you dress up in Mario suits and you drive around the city.
You've been to Japan?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I spent a couple weeks there.
That's awesome.
You have to get. It's called a JR Rail Pass, and you have to do it outside the country. It's not available to local citizens. It's only available to foreigners. But you buy it, and any train on the JR Rail company is all free. It's like $500 or $600, I think. I don't remember, about 8 years ago. But you get that, and you can go like all the bullet trains and anywhere around Tokyo for free. You just show the pass, and they let you in. Kyoto, you just buy like a $5 day bus pass or something like that.
Get around everywhere.
Yeah,
I've heard it's super clean.
Oh yeah,
extremely.
No, you go to Kyoto, and you can. I spent the month there, and when I got to Tokyo, I almost took pictures of trash in the street because I hadn't seen it in that long, and I was like, "Holy crap! It does exist here in Japan, in Tokyo."
No homelessness over there, right?
No,
unless
they
they
deal with it.
Unless they choose to live on the street, right? They have to.
I don't know the particular details. I know we never really saw any homeless people. I know that they have to have them.
Right.
I don't really know how they handle that, but
just put them somewhere else.
Something.
We are back in business. Let's carry on. Sorry for that wait. Technical difficulties. Party must go on.
Same link?
Same link, yep.
Okay.
It's still active. I just had to restart the computer.
All right. Well, we're out of our talking about Asian culture and our love of it.
Well, that's a fascinating topic. You know, hopefully they feel the same way about us.
But when I went there, everybody wanted to speak English to me. It was like they were excited to speak English to me.
Oh yeah, they wanted to practice because they never had the opportunity to talk with a native speaker. So
Right.
they're like, "Oh, I can finally put my skills to the test. What I learned in school."
There's definitely a strong relationship there between Japan and the U.S. Obviously, like they are one of the only countries that are still buying our debt, and it's like I don't really understand that relationship. Like we bombed the ever living Christ out of them just 70 years ago, and like now they kind of just do whatever we tell them to do. Like I don't know, it seems like there's like kind of a submissive culture over there.
So somebody was pointing out that whenever you go to war, all of the people that are off to go fight, there tend to be the more aggressive, in your face. I'm not going to do what you tell me type of people. And then they all died because they went to war.
Right.
So it kind of takes the aggressiveness out of a whole generation of men.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But on to the tweets. Oh, Panama Canal. President Trump has once again been proven correct. Panama claimed that the Hong Kong-based company CK Hutchinson, which operates the two ports at either end of the Panama Canal, was free from Chinese influence despite Trump's assertions to the contrary. China's recent move to block the sale of these ports to a U.S. company demonstrates its control over them. If China can prevent a sale, it can just as easily restrict access to the canal itself. These effective controls by China places Panama in material breach of its treaty obligations. The logical next step is for Panama to end its agreements with the CK Hutchinson and secure a new operator not under Chinese influence. Well, I mean, he's right. If a Chinese company can say, no, you're not going to sell, then they're the ones that own it. Because, well, unless they had some like restrictive covenants and debt or something, but even still, I don't think anything like that applies.
I thought that this transaction already happened. I thought that BlackRock made this purchase. Are they now saying that China is not allowing that transaction to happen?
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, maybe BlackRock says, "Oh yeah, we're gonna buy it," and then they, negotiations for 6 months or a year or however long.
It makes you think, okay, BlackRock makes this purchase like kind of on behalf of the U.S. government. It's like, talk about the strong ties between, like, that just shows how strong the ties are between a corporation and a private corporation and BlackRock and the U.S. government.
Mhm.
You know, it's not as if the U.S. government is actually purchasing itself. It's like, okay, now we own it because the U.S. corporation owns it, which is great. But it's like, what other conversations are being had between BlackRock and the Trump administration? You know?
Yep. I'm curious what how the whole legal framework is holding this up, because we gave it to Panama, and then the Panamanian people sold it to the Chinese people, or
Yeah,
like
when
had
did
heavy
that-
investments, and now we're trying to buy it back. So I don't know. It was a mistake to get rid of it back in the day.
I think so.
Well, also it was paid for substantially by Americans.
US, yeah.
And I know I'm assuming Panamanian people are helped build it too, but it was major investments from our country, and we just gave it away.
Just for $1. I know
Yeah.
that stat, but I'm not sure why. What else was? I mean, if there were other strings attached, I'm sure there were.
Oh yeah, like we have to keep getting access to it. I'm sure is a major string.
Right. And they use the US dollar as their currency for whatever that's worth, but just creates a stronger tie between us and Panama.
Used to be worth a lot in the day.
It forces everyone that's going through there to have to use dollars. So.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true
that's-
too.
Yeah, but we still could have done that by keeping ownership. Just as you want to pay us, you pay us in our currency.
It'd be nice to just get a small cut of every, big cargo ship that goes through there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's check out some of the comments.
Oh, wait, hold on. Go back. That's not how this works. It's not that easy. Imagine everyone cancels a contract because something else comes up. Except for Scott, I'm sure you know this when it comes to like real estate and whatnot. If there's a rental property, the owner can sell it to somebody else, and they just continue the lease agreement.
Yeah.
Like, it's real easy to transfer it over. So
Right.
just because there's a contract that might make things more complicated, it doesn't mean you can't do it.
Yeah, I don't know much about this. I mean, the whole Panama and Iceland, or what's the other country he's looking at? Greenland purchases that he's looking to do. Like, I love the way that they sound, but there's just so many things going on. It's hard to like take it seriously as to like how he's always posturing different things. Like, is Trump actually thinking about buying Greenland? Is he actually thinking, like, are these things really happening, or is he just posturing? Like, and he's doing it in so many different facets too. It's hard to like really keep tabs on all the different things.
I'm sure some of it's posturing, some of it's just he's having fun because he knows the media will lose their shit. He's just like, hey guys, watch this.
Right.
Because, he likes to joke around. So I wouldn't put it past that he does some of those comments like that. I know that China was trying to build their own canal, I think through Nicaragua, for a while. So they were trying to buy up a bunch of land, and they were trying to get that to work. I guess they found it too difficult, so they just said, "Oh, we'll just go buy the Panamanian company instead." Oh man, and things used to be simpler in the economy, and now we have so much international treaties and whatnot.
Do you know anything about like an Arctic canal that Russia's supposed to be doing through Canada? Or are you familiar with?
No, that's news to me.
Yeah, it's used to me too.
Okay, came across it along.
What else you got?
Since we're on the subject of China and y'all have experience being in China and you have appreciation for the culture, I think it's interesting how, they're always the boogeyman. They are our unifying enemy, our greatest threat, right? According to the media, according to our government. But perhaps the people have, come to appreciate the West and what it represents. And we appreciate their culture, but when you're talking about regimes, right? There's different motives, different motivations, and different global agendas. So here it just kind of discusses what we've seen. We all know about the outsourcing of manufacturing to China, and now the tariffs. are going to have an impact on all that. But if you guys just want to touch on this was an interesting tweet by Sean McGuire.
Sure. Sean McGuire tweets, Clinton outsourced manufacturing to China. Bush started 2 wars and drained America's coffers. Obama wasted 8 years with failed appeasement. Trump 1 didn't understand the D.C. swamp. Biden continued Obama's failed strategies. Trump 2 is making America great again. And so, as it's been said here before, and I'm going to say it again, I am actually real grateful that Trump lost in 2020.
What was that?
Because I don't think we'd have the same type of president if he won,
Right.
as compared to what we're getting with this time around, this term.
Yeah, yesterday Dave Smith was on Rogan, and he was talking about how, Trump came in guns blazing, and now sort of seems to be playing the deep state game again. Where he came in to dismantle, and now we're back to global conflict escalating. Whatever happened to ending the war on day one, right? Whatever happened to releasing all the files? There's quite a few things that are left to be desired.
Yeah, I mean,
we have to be patient.
And coming after Thomas Massey too, right?
That's one of the major indicators right there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Massey has been one of the better senators. He's a senator, right?
For Kentucky, yeah.
Yeah. During the whole COVID thing, where he's making, no, you guys actually have to vote on this shit. You can't just pass the buck and say, oh, someone else will figure it out. And he's been one of the few staunch peoples that's trying to not let the growth, keep going in the government and whatnot. So it's a real miss on Trump trying to get him primaried and whatnot.
Definitely not appeasing to the Libertarian Party, that's for sure.
Yeah, Thomas Massey is a congressman of Kentucky, and he has been consistent all throughout his career, essentially trying to stop reckless spending. And one should respect the fact that he, sticks to his merits.
I mean, so one of the other things about Trump, he did come out and do some good things first day. He did have some good narrative shifts, like changing the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Getting Elon in there and just starting to expose everything, get some sunlight everywhere. So if he comes out with another big push of things that he promised, I'll be happy. Maybe, he had his first thing, got it all taken care of, now he's going to the second phase or doing it in chunks, because he did keep some of his promises. Ross Ulbricht has been freed. He did sign the congressional article for the JFK files to be released. Now people are dragging their feet, it looks like, or maybe there is even destruction of evidence, so they released what they have. Sorry that we don't have anything else. They got rid of it. And I'm not really going to fault him for that.
Yeah, I think that, and there's just a lot to, be critical of, because things are moving so fast. But like, if you zoom out, he's been in office for 2.5 months. Like, there's only so much you can ask. But it is a little suspicious that some of his surrounding people that he's, chosen to be in his surrounding group have kind of gone silent. You look at RFK Jr., and he's not really going after the pharmaceutical companies and the COVID stuff as much as he said that he was going to. And it could just be a time thing.
I heard that, I was reading that somebody has blackmail on him or something, maybe, or that's what Candace Owens was saying.
Yeah,
something like that.
I didn't listen to the most recent Ian Carroll, Candace Owens thing, but there's an Israel tie. There's an Israel tie that's tied to his sexting scandal that happened last fall, and so there's some conspiracies there that I'm, not fully downloaded on. But
it's kind of weird that people are still getting like in trouble for sexting scandals in this day and age. I mean, we had the whole Anthony Weiner thing, and like,
well, apparently the girl that was sexting with RFK Jr. had ties to Anthony Weiner. She worked for Anthony Weiner at the time that Anthony Weiner got busted back in 2014 for all this. So it's like, I mean, I am completely speculating, but it's like when you're a young girl, 24 years old, you kind of see firsthand how that playbook happens and how you can someone's career was ruined through sexting. Then 10 years later, you are that girl ruining someone else's career. It's like, you can kind of put 2 and 2 together and then start questioning, wait, who is this girl? And I think that that's what Candace Owen and Ian Carroll are doing, is trying to figure out, wait, who is this girl? Who backs her? Who knows who she's like this 36-year-old, very good looking girl. Why is she sexting with a 68-year-old or 7-year-old politician? I don't
And
lot
he's
of questions
married,
there.
right?
Married, so he shouldn't be doing that anyways, obviously. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe yes, maybe no. Doesn't Elon have like 6 girlfriends or something like that and like 30 kids?
he's not married.
Yeah. But I mean, he could still be married if, everyone knows about it.
So the main thing people are concerned about is the hijacking of the Maha movement, right? It was supposed to be that we were going to get accountability from
Right.
essentially
That's what I was saying. He's got the blackmail on him, and so they're trying to
and
control him with that.
Exactly. So now you got Rabbi Shmuley, who is a very controversial figure, hanging out with them all the time, and essentially we went from getting accountability from big pharma to declaring anti-Semitism a national health emergency, right? How did
wait,
we
he
get?
did that?
Yeah, he
That's
did
sad.
that. So it begs the question. He made a clear distinction saying that you cannot mandate any medical emergency or whatever based on like non-verifiable things like what they did with COVID, where they essentially they disregarded the science and just said trust us, right? And now with this crisis, it's something that's not measurable. It's leaving the definition in the hand of the interpreter, and that I think is a dangerous game to play. So if people are now asking, how did we get from essentially facing and addressing the root cause of so much illness to a completely different subject so quick?
Mhm.
But yeah, time.
Well, I think he did repeal the order or legislation. Well, not legislation because he can't repeal that, but it was the grass chemicals, the generally regarded as safe chemicals that they would put into food because it's like, oh, they're generally regarded as being safe, and so no testing or anything is done on this stuff, and they just shove it in all of our food. So I think he got rid of that, I believe.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's really upset with him about the food-related stuff that he's done or anything that he's really done up until this point, but people thought that he was going to be a lot more proactive about coming after Fauci, going after the pharma companies, and again, it could just be a time thing, but like...
Yeah, because you have to do investigations and all that type of stuff. They can't just come out the next day and say, arrest Fauci. Or
Right.
not just say, like, go and arrest him because they have to go and do evidence gathering and whatnot. Like,
I mean, Mike Benz has got smoking guns left and right, and that's one independent journalist, right? Like they have the evidence, so it's it's leaving us wanting more. But again, hopefully they are. So here's one thing that I'll put forth that I think might give them some benefit of doubt, and that's that Trump is launching this executive order on essentially that Crossfire hurricane Russia hoax scandal. So this Crossfire hurricane was a essentially intelligence agency operation where Hillary Clinton, Obama, and FBI and CIA and whatnot collaborated to fabricate this Russia hoax in order to essentially steal the election, right? And if that's true, if Trump did specifically put an EO forth demanding the release of all those documents, if that happens and they actually are able to prove that the likes of Obama and Hillary and Bill Gates were actively involved in Banana Republic style election interference, that could be the domino that tips all the others.
All right.
well, hopefully they can start getting like the racketeering charges and whatnot, going after the lower guys, getting plea deals so they can go up the food chain. I still want those guys to have consequences, but at the same time, if some guy just, sent the email, I'd rather get the person that told him to send it type of thing.
Yeah, it just seems like they're signaling too much. Like, I want him to have signed this executive order yesterday so that the people who are behind the scenes can't cook the books on it. By him signaling, okay, we're going to sign this executive order, it just gives people that have access to the data to, time to get rid of that information or hide stuff. you
Right,
know?
but at the same time, you could argue that because he gave them time to go do something, they can know where the data is, watch it, and then see who accesses it to delete it. And so now they know, oh, this person's definitely at least tangentially involved because they know to go delete it.
And you were saying this before we went live, but the whole USAID thing, they deleted data, but it's so recent data that people were able to see that it was deleted and just recover it again, right?
Yeah. So like they went and deleted it, but then we just recreate it, and now we know the user who logged in to delete it.
Right.
Now we say, hey, we've got some questions for you.
And as it relates to JFK files, maybe those JFK files were not on a computer, and so could be more easily, deleted or eliminated, which is very hard to believe. That would seem like extremely antiquated that it wasn't uploaded to a computer at some point. But
Well, I mean, those files were put back in the 70s or
70s, yeah.
70s, and I mean, hell, we had the
If those files were not uploaded to a computer in that 50-year period, like that seems almost criminal in itself.
not necessarily, because I did an internship at a local county, Miami-Dade County, and I went to like one of their file rooms, and I found stuff from like the 60s and 70s in there still, and it was just some box in the corner because no one had cleaned it out in a while.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm
Yeah,
like,
but
holy
you
crap.
can't compare that to the assassination of a sitting president, right? The documentation regarding that is
Right, but my point being is sometimes they don't have this stuff digitized. It's just sitting in a box. It was low-level required information.
But like that
not the
seems
assassination.
criminal in itself to not have had that uploaded to a computer at some point. It's just like that is just ignorance.
Yeah,
well,
but
it's
also,
intentional. It has to
it
be.
has to be.
So let's give Trump some credit, right? Because he is, Craig Shapiro talks, sorry, I'm not saying you're not giving him credit. I'm pretty critical of all leadership, and I think that's a healthy thing, right? Nobody should just blanket approve everything anybody does. And, that's what unfortunately some people demand is just, blind obedience. But no, we're not a cult, right? We seek truth as Bitcoiners. Bitcoiners seek verifiable truth.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, he's definitely stirring up the pot, right? We've got these tariffs, and Insurrection Barbie, she has been very vocal on quite a few things and hits the nail on the head quite a few times, and has a good post on this subject here. Scott, do you want to take it?
Sure. Trump is doing something that nobody has done ever at the same time. Massive deregulation, massive tax cuts, massive shrinkage of the federal government, and big tariffs. Anybody who understands how economics work can see that when all of these things align, the resulting synergy is going to jumpstart economy like we have not seen since probably the Reagan era. And then right below that is kind of what I was going into earlier, which is money is flowing out of the stock market and into bonds, lowering the bond yields. Ironically, this will lower interest rates on mortgages, auto loans, business loans. It will stimulate the real economy, Main Street, which I think there's a lot of truth to. But it does feel like he's trying to thread a needle that I think could prove to be a lot more difficult to do. The economy basically runs on debt, and they need money to stimulate the economy. And when you start pulling money out of the stock market and it goes into bonds, the tax receipts from those stocks then lower your receipts that the government is able to pull in through revenue. And you need something to stimulate that revenue to pay back some.
Talking about like it decreases the stock market and revenue they can pull from that. They only get any revenue when you sell stocks that you buy. So if everyone is selling at a loss, then it's actually going to substantially reduce the income that they can pull from people.
Right. So, and they're already $2 trillion short. So their goal is to increase the revenue $2 trillion, decrease the expenses by $1 trillion to try and somehow balance the budget. And this is not going to be stimulating the real economy. And so you'll be able to bring down interest rates and that could stimulate the economy. But,
well, I mean, there's been so much manipulation of the information that it's kind of hard to tell what the real state of the economy is, because every president, and I'm saying Biden, Trump, Obama, all of them are always going to try and get the numbers to look best for them. None of them are unique in that regards. So they're always going to kind of puff up the numbers so it looks best for them. During the 2008 crisis, the housing crisis, there was things called zombie banks. It was a bank that didn't have enough money, but because of government interference, they kept him propped up for much, and so they were basically dead banks walking, and they did that just so it didn't look so bad for the president at the time. And there was I don't remember her name, but she was talking about we basically have the whole 2008 bubble inflated again through private equity firms buying up small companies, and it's got the same structure. It just got a different name on it. They're basically armed loans, and as soon as the rates go up, everything starts defaulting because they can't make the mortgage payments or the interest payments anymore. And so if that's true, and private equity isn't as regulated as the stock market and all the other types of markets, if that's the bubble that pops, it could take everything down. And it was not on anyone's radar, where all of these things, as they're saying here, it's flowing out of the stock market, and that would boost economic activity. Maybe that's true, but now there's this other factor that somebody hid because it didn't look good, and now it's going to crash everything because it's going to be the right domino to fall to take the entire house down.
Yeah.
So,
And it's true. We don't know what economic data is correct and what's not. I mean, as far as inflation goes, there's a report that says that, Trueflation, which is a website that calculates inflation differently than the CPI is calculated by the government, and that inflation is actually like 1%, whereas it's being reported as 2.8%, which doesn't seem like that big of a difference. But when you're talking as large numbers as trillions of dollars, it's a huge difference. And that really affects how people allocate their money based off of where that inflation rate is. And it can completely mess up the entire economy if no one actually knows what the real inflation rate is. It's a huge number that people are miscalculating.
Yeah, well, it's because it also plays into the interest rates, because you have to have an interest rate that's bigger than the inflation rate.
Right.
So you actually make money off of lending your money. Otherwise, if your inflation is more than your interest rate, you lose money.
Right.
And so there's just this true scale and complexity of the international markets is mind-boggling. Like, you'd have to have all of the ChatGPT and Claude and all of those guys working together to hope to try and figure that shit out.
But the inflation is really like the basis, to your point. If you're not making more on an investment than what inflation is, then you're losing money in real terms. So you need that starting point. As we talk about the definitions of things, like if you can't agree on what that starting baseline is, the whole economy is messed up. Like, there are people who are saying that we should be lowering rates immediately to stimulate the economy, whereas the Fed is actually just holding them where they are. And so I don't know, there's a crazy dichotomy between where people think things should be and where things actually are. And we're seeing it now in the economy where things are kind of in array and nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, well, it's absurdity to think that we can accurately predict what the interest rate should be. It's kind of an organic number that comes from people's saving and spending habits. And when you start messing with it, the interest is the price of money. And so the fact that we mess with it means that we have government interference in the price of money, which is the backbone of the capitalist model. Is we need to have the money that gives us information. Prices of things are information. What do people value? What do people need? And just the whole Federal Reserve messing with the interest rates, it creates distortions. And eventually reality is going to come back in. And depending on how much it's distorted, is going to be how much pain you're going to suffer.
Rand Paul, the son of Ron Paul, is another consistent, anti-spending, he essentially is what would you call him? A fiscal conservative, a libertarian. Yeah, he is fairly vocal on his dislike of these tariffs. And I think, there's validity to all these angles. So if you want to explore this real quick, Jeff, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, tariffs are taxes, and Americans are paying the price. From $5,000 hikes on cars to $10,000 more for a new home and 70 cents more per gallon of gas. Working families can't afford this. It's time to terminate the Trump tariffs before it's too late.
So, Scott, you said earlier that the economy runs on debt, which I don't agree with. I think the economy runs on production, because in order for you to consume something, or even to be able to, have something that you want to borrow, it has to be produced first. And so one of the things that I see as a good thing about tariffs is it incentivizes production in the country. And we have a really high unemployment rate. So there's a couple ways that they measure unemployment. And the way people commonly report it is the one where they drop out the people who are no longer looking for work. So they've been looking for work for like 6 months or a year and they can't find anything. So just give up. But we don't count that in the unemployment rate. And so with the tariffs, it's going to hurt in the short term for sure, but it's also going to bring back manufacturing so people here can find jobs, produce things so that they can improve their quality of life. Because, hey, I'm being a productive member of society, and then they can take the money and go and spend it and stimulate everything. The whole I buy from you so I can sell to you, that type of thing.
And it's going to encourage like domestic purchasing.
Right. I mean, if no one else in the world had tariffs and we threw them up, that'd be a bad idea. Everyone else in the world has tariffs except for us. So it's kind of just a reciprocal thing saying, oh, you guys are all doing this. Well, we need to do this to protect ourselves as well. Otherwise, we're getting screwed.
And if we're, speculating that we're going to be lowering income taxes or getting rid of income taxes for some people, that is also going to be lowering our tax receipts. We're going to be lowering our tax receipts from the stock, not getting it from the stock market. But these tariffs are going to bring in money. So that's going to supplant or replace some of that income as well that we desperately are going to need.
And the manufacturing that's going to have, or the companies coming in domestically to like distributors of electronic components or, they're going to be incentivized to create high and good paying jobs here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So
some people think that it's actually going to be deflationary, the tariffs. I don't know if you've read anything like that, Anthony.
I've heard that, yeah.
I think it's a long-term thing, but there's, some facts around. Trump did have some tariffs that he implemented in 2018 around like solar panels, washer machines. There are a few other items. And
cars, I think. In 2018, he had the car tariffs.
If you track that over an 18-month period, the prices actually on those items came down. They went up almost immediately because of the tariffs, but to the consumer, but then over time they came down. So,
and both sides can be right. I mean, it can be up and it can be down. It just depends how you're purchasing or how you're buying, which angle you take or how you angle yourself.
So the reason I think that Rand Paul is saying it's a bad thing is, and you'll know this is an economics major, it was a marginal advantage, something like that. So some country can be better at producing stuff than another, and so if that's the case, when you trade, you can even out.
It's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, it's mutually beneficial. But if the other country is throwing up tariffs to make it more expensive, it changes all the numbers, and it's not the true thing anymore. If only every country had the same culture and we all had the same beliefs, it'd be a lot easier so that we could get rid of some of the stuff.
Are you advocating for one world government?
One world Christian government. There we go.
But with a benevolent dictator.
Yep, Christ.
I like it. But he essentially Scott Bessent, he was on Tucker, I think that was today actually, and he was saying that Trump is just going back to fair trade, right? Where, for years we were just being exploited, right? He put forth that chart showcasing the tariffs that were being imposed on us from all these other countries and how we essentially had none. And so in a way, it's just balancing the scale, hopefully a negotiation tactic, but also, we're going to feel some short-term pain. It's necessary. It has to happen. And Craig Shapiro kind of highlighted that within the first 6 months, if he takes this action, he can essentially rightfully blame the previous administration for the pain that we're going to experience, because he's essentially correcting the wrongs of their policies. And, there's going to be, there will be short-term inflation and stuff, but I found this tweet here. I want to share, pull up here.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, no one has tariffs. That would be the ideal, but that's not the reality we live in.
Exactly. But here's Corey Bates has put this forth, and it's an interesting observation. So is it possible, that for the first time we're seeing Bitcoin decoupling from the dollar? given that that really is the root of the issue is inflation, is the broken money. We can have these tariffs and have a short-term fix, but that's that's ignoring the underlying issue. So our money is broken.
Yeah, it looks like at least it's only been 2 days, so you know, give it a little bit more time. But it does look like Bitcoin's acting more as a safe haven asset, especially relative to stocks, which is definitely a good thing because it's basically tracked the Nasdaq up and down for going on years now. So it's decoupled in the last 2 days, which is great, but we'll see what happens 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, Bitcoin's been all over the place the last 4 months.
But it's held steady at this 80 level for the last like 2 weeks, which is positive.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does look like that's a floor for it right now.
right. Although Larry Lepard a couple nights ago said that he could see it going down to the 70s before it then comes back up. So, I mean, again, nobody has a crystal ball, but
Yeah,
Totally.
I mean, just be happy for more people to recognize that we need to get off this dirty fiat standard.
In good news, Jim Cramer said that the economy, you know, is going to suffer because of these tariffs. So, according to his record,
do the opposite of what he says.
exactly. So,
Like, how
we
is
should
that
be
guy
all right.
still on TV if he has his own trope of literally do the opposite of what he says? Like, why do they keep bringing this guy out? I don't know. Unless it's to try and confuse the masses or something.
Paul, did you see the guy who was on Tucker who has the app that tracks Pelosi and the different
Oh yeah, that guy.
and then they have an anti-Kramer stock picker
So
ETF
funny.
that's up like 25% or something like that on the year.
Oh my gosh, I saw a clip of it. I haven't watched the whole thing yet.
Yeah,
But-
it's hilarious, and he basically they track Pelosi, they track all the major crooks and of politicians who use their information to pick stocks, but they have an anti-Kramer one as well. It's done exceptionally well, but
Oh yeah, well, it's been a common tactic for the high up, like the BlackRocks and whatnot, is to go out and say, "Hey, we think this investment piece is going to happen," so they wait for the prices to pump everything, and then they sell off all their stuff behind the scenes, and then when everything tanks, they just walk away with big bags of money.
yeah, and there's an argument that Kramer is a little at a disadvantage because he presents at 4:30 every day, so there's a time lag between when he's presenting the stocks to pick versus when he may have actually decided to buy them earlier in the morning, and there's a huge difference there. So like if you're taking his advice and then going to buy, you're arguably already too late, whereas BlackRock's the first one to the party, and so then their returns are going to be a lot higher. So to his defense, that's maybe why he's wrong a lot, but he's wrong a lot.
I'm also going to say, I appreciate the defense, but when we have Robinhood shutting down stock trades because it's ruining everything, like with the whole GameStop, Robinhood, the app, shut down the trading. Yeah, no, it's the people on the back end
Yeah, for sure.
putting their fingers on the scale. Let's put it that way.
Chamath is having some fun here. He's been an interesting his arc, from being a Silicon Valley Democrat to now being a staunch Trump supporter has been fascinating. He's not a dummy, but people are giving him some
Some flack or something.
giving him some flack for here one guy says to stop dick riding essentially. But what do you guys think? Is he essentially is this just 40 years of terrible policy from previous administrations that inevitably has to come to
I think people are freaking out. I mean, we're still up. You'd have to check me, but if you look at the S&P, I think we're still up like 20% on the last year and like 125% over the last 5 years. So like instead of being up 135% over the last 5 years, we're up 25%. Like, this seems shocking, but like the
Well-
returns have still been great over time, and it's really just
This also seems like a lot of emotional trading or something like that, because I remember back in 2017 or 2016 when Trump was declared the winner for his first term, the stocks in the morning, they took like a 5% or 10% dip or some huge swing in the early morning. And then by the afternoon, they were up like 20% from what the day opened at or something like that. Some like just everyone was like, oh, look, this is what happened when you elect Trump. And then the next day, it was better than it was ever before.
Well, I think I've mentioned it before, but having apps like Robinhood and apps that allow you to purchase like the everyday person, I think that also makes things more volatile. So we'll probably start to see more swings in the upwards and downwards.
yeah,
True, we've got a lot more retail traders now
Right.
because it's just easier to.
and
you know.
algorithmic traders like computers that are just trading on
Yeah.
the spot.
Right, bots, yeah.
Um,
So I think that might be the new norm, is just seeing these big swings. And if we focus too much on the upward or downward, transit, like let's see what happens in the next like 2 years, maybe 5 years, or
it makes you question like how much these guys who are making these calls like actually read the news and anticipate even days in advance. Like, did they not think Trump was actually going to do these tariffs? Like, it really took him actually doing it for these stocks to really fall. Like, did they not anticipate that beforehand? Like, did anyone not take
Well, they also could
take
be,
some profits?
yeah, and they could also be short-term thinkers as well, because they're saying, oh, we have these tariffs, all the expenses are going to go up, and then a week later, it's got companies saying they're going to invest $500 billion or something into the country, and so that's good looking for long-term growth. And so maybe they didn't factor that in, saying, oh, now because of tariffs, we're going to have a lot more investment. So in a decade, the United States is going to be even better, or anything like that.
I wonder what would happen if everyone just stopped the negative like news or whatever, and just everyone was positive. Oh, we're gonna do great, and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Encourage everyone to just
Yeah, but unfortunately, the human brain's not wired that way.
It really, in terms of the human brain, it highlights how much people are like high time preference thinkers, not low time preference, long term thinkers. Like, this is all just like very reactionary stuff. It's like people are freaking out on the left and the media, but it's like this is just going to be a short term blip for long term success. But like a lot of people just can't see that long term
Well,
outlook.
funny enough to our core premise, the fiat actually incentivizes that. It's not as bad when it first started out because it was a lot more stable. But as you get further, people print more money, your inflation rates are higher. So now you have to spend your money to make sure you get your value for it. So it incentivizes short-term mind frame because you have to, otherwise all the work that you did in the storage is going to evaporate. So it shifts your time frames and your time horizons shorter.
Yeah, the opportunity cost is lost in holding that dollar, so you want to spend it as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Since we're on Chamath, he had another interesting take here just a moment ago. Let's see, maybe. Okay, here we go. So Trump tweeted out a discussion with Vietnam because, after, Liberation Day tariff policy announcements, apparently they decided to drop their tariffs on us completely. So, yeah.
Did you see how high Vietnam's was? It was like 43%.
Wow, I did not know that.
And Nike has 130 factories in Vietnam, and its stock got fucked.
Yep.
So I imagine Nike was probably behind the scenes. Like, you got to do something about this. Or the alternative was to move its factories here, but then they can't pay children, 20 cents a day to put together their shoes. So then that math doesn't math.
Right. But, remember when, one person could work at Radio Shack and, have essentially an income to support a family.
Right.
Right. This was before everything was outsourced, when companies actually had to compensate.
Yeah, it's funny. People always point out, if you look at the Simpsons, it was supposed to be set in the 1990s, and in the 1990s, a lower middle class guy that was clowned on for not having money had a house that he was paying for, 2 cars, and a wife that stayed at home, and kids in school.
Right.
And nowadays, it's like, oh, you want that? everyone in the family's got to go work.
Right.
How do the Simpsons do it, man? All those predictions.
They just put so many out there that eventually something's gonna hit.
Yeah, like broken clock. I guess.
I like that theory.
I don't
But-
like that theory. I,
Well,
want
I like
to
it
be way
because
more
it's too. I was about to
conspiratorial.
say it's just far too generous. All right, there's
Yeah.
so many people that are just yeah,
Well,
you know,
there-
it's
there-
coincidental.
There's a really funny one where it talks about like Lisa is president and it's like a future prediction type thing, and it's talking about how after Trump bankrupted the country and the kids turned super criminals and were taught how to function without sleep because of night basketball or something like that. It's just funny that they were talking about Trump being president, and here we are.
Yeah. I mean, they've been right about a lot of things too. I mean,
Yeah.
the escalator scene is just unbelievable.
You don't think he maybe used that? Like one of his kids were like, "Hey, Dad, let's
I
let's
don't
just do
think so,
this."
but that would be crazy.
When did you probably don't know, but like when did that scene come out? Because
right before the first one, before he won, when he
yeah,
was
it had to be
running.
beforehand.
But I think it was like a long time before. It wasn't like
Oh.
a few years before. It was like a decade before.
Yeah, it had to be
honestly,
like 2000s era or
Yeah.
something.
Here's one of the craziest conspiracy theories that is currently, essentially making its rounds, and that is, why is Trump not investigating his own assassination attempt? Right? If you were president, you got in after nearly being sentenced to life in prison, right, by a weaponized DOJ, and the shooter, Dave Smith was on Rogan talking about this, and your supposed shooter had 5 cell phones and his apartment was professionally scrubbed, right? Like there's so many red flags here, but there's not any
Well, that-
investigation that we're privy of.
Right. That's exactly it. What we're privy of. They potentially are going to be looking at all that stuff behind the scenes. Like, what have we heard from Dan Bongino since he got put in as the deputy director?
He says every day he says it's a bad day to be for the bad guys.
Right.
Right.
But like, what have we heard from him in terms of what he's actually doing? He's not going to tell us what they're up to because they're trying to collect evidence and whatnot. I mean, maybe it's just us giving them the benefit of the doubt when we shouldn't. Maybe, but
That's
Dude,
the argument.
I see. Like that mindset is a mindset that I hope I had at one point, but then like things like this signal issue that happened, like we think these guys are playing 4D chess, but like I don't think that they are. Like I
Well,
think
Tim Pool was had a video out saying that was a hoax. They did that intentionally. Like it wasn't a mistake. They did it intentionally because it gave them a couple of benefits. So I don't know.
or that somebody got into their Signal app and added that person without them knowing. I've heard that conspiracy theory too. But I think what Paul is saying with the conspiracy theory with Trump is the speculation is that it could have been an inside job, meaning like Trump actually could have been in on that assassination attempt.
Well, if there's an investigation happening, we're not going to hear anything anyways because the investigation's happening. So
True.
even if they were
Yeah.
investigating, we wouldn't know.
Well, here's another crazy coincidence. So there's this company. I'll pull up the name in a moment. It's some kind of a trust. I don't know. It's some.
That's gonna have to
Some-
be our last thing.
What's that?
That's gonna have to be our last thing.
You gotta get going. Okay. I forget this group. It's some investment firm, but apparently the day before 9/11, they sold all of their Boeing stock, and the day before Trump's assassination, they sold all of their Truth Social stock, and that day, coincidentally, CNN happened to be live streaming this event in the middle of nowhere where they never had live streamed any of his rallies before.
Yeah, the only event they live streamed was the Butler rally.
Right. But this is, what people were saying is a smoking gun. This group, after the attempted assassination failed, after that failed, they said, whoops, we'd like our shares back. That was a glitch. It was an error. We didn't intend to make that trade. Right. So how come that one group is so, almost like they have a crystal ball?
Who
or
is the
they're-
group?
I'm going to look up the name right now.
Meaning, like, so they sold the stock because they were like, Trump's going to die. And then they wanted the shares back because he
Yeah,
he
that's
survived.
the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Is that he's gonna the stock's gonna tank. Let's get our money while we can.
All right.
And then when he didn't, They're just like, oh, that was computer glitch. And my answer to that would have been, sucks to be your IT team right now.
Yeah.
Don't care if it was a glitch. You sold it. It's ours now. It's out in the country.
Who's getting fired?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, there are I don't know how you explain like there's 3 people who died on the scene too. So how do you explain those deaths? Who shot that person? Because there are other theories that there were multiple shooters at that event too. It didn't just come from the person on the roof. There are speculation that there are people in the front row where shots were fired too. So it's like, who got shot by what bullets? Can you trace those bullets that are in those people who died to the shooters on the roof, or are they different bullets? Like, we haven't heard anything on any of that
Yeah,
stuff.
they should be able to check the rifling on it,
Yeah.
I think that's a thing they can use as forensics. All right, Paul, you got an answer for us on who this mysterious
So
company
yeah, I
is?
want to get the right name. I've read it a few places, but apparently I think it's called.
Austin Private Wealth?
Yeah, I think that's it. But let's double check. I'll do some more digging.
All right, well, that's just going to have to be what we open the show with next time. Because
Sounds good.
Unfortunately, I got to get out of here. Got some more work to do. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure today.
All right, brother. We'll see you next time. Do you guys want to?
Yeah, anyone got some shout outs they want to do?
No.
So short and sweet today, guys. It was fun. We will be back on Wednesday, joined by Craig Shapiro. He will give us a down low on the macro perspective of tariffs, and he has a crystal ball himself. The guy essentially predicted exactly what would happen once Trump takes office with regards to tariffs and the economic landscape. So we're gonna look at his prediction. We're gonna have him unpack it and give us another macro perspective on what we can expect at the end of the year. So looking forward to that. Thanks for joining us.
Till next time.
Till next time.
The runway.